Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast. For today, we're going over UFC Vegas 64, Rodriguez versus Lemos. First things first, you notice this beautiful scenery. I am in my kitchen. The whole house has COVID. I got to look after a 3-year-old. I got to look after a 1-month-old. It's pandemonium in the house, so it is going to be a little rushed. It is not going to be in the basement. I have my daughter in a swing literally as we speak right next to me, so we'll see how long she is silent. So I am going to fly through this card. It's not the best card. There's only 12 fights to begin with. So again, make sure you give this video a like, a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok. We are taking over bit by bit. But again, I apologize for the speed of this pod. But if you're just here for the picks and the info, you can get rid of long-winded me, and we're going to hop right into it. So again, the very first fight of the night is a very shaky fight, but the entire fight card's a little shaky. We have the very first fight of the night. Let's put it. We have Ramona Pascal at plus 125 going up against Tamiris Vidal at minus 145. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 210. Under 2.5 plus 170. Let's start with Ramona Pascal because she's someone I keep betting on and keep losing money on. She's not good by any means. The main reason I keep betting on her is because she is thick. She is a big girl for 135. In fact, she has yet to make 135. Her UFC debut was at 145 against Jocelyn Nunez. That was on short notice. I'll give her a break. But then her next fight against Jocelyn Edwards, she fought at she asked for a catch weight at 140 because she was not going to make 135 again. So I don't know, man. Her striking's all right. It's not very good. She's pretty hittable in all honesty, but it's serviceable. Her jiu-jitsu's okay. It's not great, but it's just okay. Her wrestling is all right. It's not the greatest. She's pretty good in the clinch. She has some pretty sick knees in the clinch. Honestly, that's about all she has. Her cardio seems to check out. She's pretty big, but she's a little bit of a can crusher. She fights some pretty bad girls and takes them out pretty easily. But the same can be said about her opponent here with Tamiris Vidal. Again, she's a little bit of a can crusher. You can take her down and she can get stuck on her back. This is going to be her UFC debut. Her jiu-jitsu's okay. I believe she's like a purple or a brown belt. She loves rolling for leg locks. I saw her go for 1,000,000 leg locks on her regional scene. Her striking, not the greatest. It seems as if she hits pretty hard, but it's pretty one and done and pretty low volume as well. Her wrestling doesn't look the greatest. The only person that actually is somewhat even close to UFC caliber is her win over Eileen Perez, but Eileen got disqualified. She didn't actually win that fight. Eileen threw a clearly illegal knee. Vidal looked up at the referee who was scolding Perez, then just decided to fall back down to the ground. She was it looked like she was fine, and then she saw the ref and started acting. I don't know. I didn't take the knee. It's just what it looked like, and then she ended up getting a DQ win. A little sketchy, but she's a little bit of a can crusher as well. So you have two girls that are absolutely terrible. Neither one's that good on the feet. Neither one is that good on the ground. Neither one can really wrestle. What are you going to do? I'm going to take the one with UFC experience at plus money. So I do have to watch the weigh-ins. Again, she's never actually made 135 in the UFC, so you have to watch Ramona. But if she makes weight, she looks fine. I'll just take the plus money there. All right, then the very next fight of the night, we are looking at Jake Hadley going up against Carlos Candelario. Jake Hadley's a minus 260 favorite. Comeback on Carlos is plus 220. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 210. Under 2.5 plus 170 again. That's a common total for a lot of these fights, in all honesty. Let's start with Jake. I think Jake's a little bit of a douche, to be honest with you. He missed weight in his Contender Series fight. He's pretty low volume. He's pretty hittable, in all honesty, on the feet. But he has pretty decent wrestling, and he has a really good ground game. I'll give him his jiu-jitsu is pretty top-notch. On the feet, all he does is move forward, but again, it's not very technical by any means, nor does he throw a lot. His cardio seemed to check out. He's only 26 years old. He's pretty brash here. He's just not, I don't know. He kind of reminds me of like Tetsuya Tora because all he does is wrestle and grapple, and he's kind of one-dimensional there. He can hit hard on the feet, but that's not where he feels comfortable at all. And it's kind of funny you mentioned Tyra, because that too Carlos lost to last. Carlos is someone I want to roll with. I like Carlos a lot, in all honesty. He has a lot of things to offer. He's 8-2, but his loss was to Tyra, and he said that he was pretty ill and had some sort of injury. And then his other loss was on the Contender Series, where no one thought he lost. It was a clear robbery, and the UFC gave him a contract off of a loss on the Contender Series. So this kid could potentially be undefeated, but he's showing his 8-2 and losing his last two. He has pretty decent striking. His jiu-jitsu, he's a black belt. His wrestling offensively is fine, but God damn, this guy cannot stuff a takedown, and that's his biggest downfall. It shows 50% takedown defense, and I'm shocked. I thought it would actually be worse than that. And he does seem to slow down a little bit. So it does look like they're trying to push Jake Hadley. Although I like Carlos, I think Carlos has more tools. I think styles make fights, and in all honesty, this is one that Jake should probably win. The guy with the better wrestling and the better cardio. It's probably going to even out on the ground. So I do like the over quite a bit. But if you just want to take Jake, and the over's better odds. I think I'd rather take the over 2.5, because Carlos is very hard to submit. Pick is Jake, bet is over 2.5. Next fight of the night, we're looking at Johnny Munoz Jr., minus 215, going up against Ludovic Sholian at plus 185. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 195. Under 2.5 plus 160. I'll start with Johnny Munoz, someone that lost me a lot of money his last fight when he fought Tony Gravely. He went out there and got knocked out pretty quickly. Didn't see that coming, so he might be a little chinny. His stand-up's not the greatest. That's not the reason you ever bet Johnny Munoz. The reason you bet Johnny Munoz is for his ground game. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he's very, very, very good on the ground, and his wrestling's decent enough to get you there. His wrestling is not bad. He took down Nate Maness multiple times. He kind of played with his food with Jamie Simons, and once he took him down, he just tapped him out real quickly. He was undefeated coming into the UFC, only 29 years old, so he's constantly growing. His stand-up's not terrible, don't get me wrong. He will have the stand-up advantage in this matchup, but that's just because Ludovic is that bad on the feet. But all in all, Johnny, great grappling, good wrestling, and work in progress on the feet. But again, Ludovic has nothing on the feet. Ludovic is also someone who just predominantly wrestles, so his grappling's okay. It is what it is. He's someone that moves forward. He's durable as could be, but he just doesn't really have much to offer on the feet. And he's a little bit of a can crusher, in all honesty. He's not. His last fight was against Jack Shore. He took it on short notice. He was supposed to lose, but the rest of his record, 7-1. Do you see someone that's 0-0, 6-1, 0-0, 0-0, 0-0, 4-0 as a draw? Like, 0-0. He fights a lot of people making their debuts. It's a little sketchy. On the Ultimate Fighter, he beat a flyweight, and then he went on to lose to Ricky Tercio. So I don't know, man. I think the thing that concerns me the most is that loss against Jack Shore, even though Jack Shore is very good and a lot better than Ludovic, Jack Shore said he blew out his shoulder in the first round, and he still went on to dominate the fight. So he basically beat Ludovic with one arm. Although I think Jack Shore is good, I don't think he should be winning fights with one arm. So that's going to drive me straight to Johnny Munoz. The pick is going to be Johnny. The bet is going to end up being Johnny as well. All right, then that takes us to the next fight of the night, and more grease. We have Jinyu Fry at plus 105 going up against Poliana Viana at minus 125. Over under, you guessed it, 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 265. Under 2.5 plus 205. Let's start with Poliana Viana, because she's someone I said I would never bet on again. I bet her in her last fight against Tabitha Ricci, because I think Tabitha Ricci's a little overrated. She's just getting put in the right situation. But Poliana Viana, she's the one, if you remember, Colby Covington talking about banging a girl at his gym. This is Poliana. She said it was false, so it is what it is. She's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage in this fight. Her striking's not terrible when she lets her hands go, to be honest with you. She hits decently hard. She has a few KOs on her record, which is not normal for a women's flyweight fight or strawweight fight. Her jiu-jitsu is good. It's top-notch. A ton of submissions. Triangle armbar, rear naked choke, some knockouts, some regular arm bars. Like, she has a good ground game. She has a good stand up, hits hard. The problem is she has 50% takedown defense and she'll pull guard. She has zero fight IQ. Her last fight against Tabitha Ricci, Tabitha couldn't even touch her on the feet and she kept pulling guard. It was driving me absolutely insane. If she stayed on the feet, she would have won that fight easily. And Tabitha was coming off of a knockout loss. Like she would have killed Tabitha, but she wanted to go to the ground with a black belt and just got controlled on top and just kept going for armbar after armbar after armbar. So her IQ is so bad, I promise that I would never bet her again. On the flip side, if I'm going to fade her, I'm fading her with Jinyu Frey, who's a 37-year-old strawweight, someone who used to fight at 105, so she's a former atom weight. She's extremely hittable. She was low volume, but her last two fights, she has picked up the pace a little bit. Her ground game, she's supposedly a black belt, but she got tapped out by Kay Hansen, so that's a little sketchy, and she's been tapped out multiple times. She'll mix in wrestling once in a while, which is nice, especially with Vienna, who wants to be on her back anyway. Maybe she can just hold her down there. I don't know, man. It's just trusting a 37-year-old who's pretty low volume and hittable. Typically, against someone with a reach advantage, it's pretty decent on the feet, and someone that has a good arm bar. And Jinyu Frey's last loss was to Vanessa Demopoulos, which is not good. But Vanessa couldn't tap her out, so I think she might be able to stay safe. I think Pollyanna is going to do Pollyanna things. I promised I would never bet her again unless absolutely needed, and you know what? This isn't needed. Give me the 37-year-old 105-pounder at plus money. The pick is going to be Jinyu Frey. The bet is going to be Jinyu Frey. Then the next fight of the night, we have one of our locks. We have Mario Batista at minus 280 going up against Benito Lopez at plus 235. Over under set it, you guessed it, 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 145. Under 2.5 at plus 115. Let's start with Mario Batista because I think this kid has all the goods. He has good striking. He has a good ground game. He's a brown belt now. His wrestling, he's been mixing it in as of late. It looked really good against Brian Kelleher in his last fight. Looked good against Jay Perrin. He's just been mixing in wrestling when he used to never wrestle. He's in the MMA lab with Sean Shalley, with Sugar Sean O'Malley, over with Kyler Phillips. It's a great camp, and they're all 135-pounders, so they all just train with each other all the time. He has good volume. He has good cardio. He does everything well. Like, I like this kid a ton. On the flip side, we have Benito Lopez, and I'm just a little confused on what's happening here. He was 25 years old when he fought last. He is now 28. So, yes, he has not fought in 3 years. So I don't really know. In 3 years, I have absolutely no idea. All in all, he's a pretty decent striker. He has pretty decent volume. He's a little hittable in all honesty. He used to train a Team Alpha Male. I don't know if he still does. When I did my Instagram stalking, I didn't see any pictures of Uriah or just the camp in general. So I don't know where he's at. And all you'll hear about is the fact that he is a real estate agent. Everyone compares him to Ella Quinta coming back just for a paycheck. But it does honestly feel like that. I know sometimes when these young kids take some time off, they come back and they look phenomenal in their next fight. The Nick Naragamenus of the world, the Chase Hoopers, when he left for a year and came back, he looked good before his last fight. That's what these young kids do. I heard this kid kept having injuries and he kept having ankle injuries and having problems, and it wasn't that he wanted to take off and said he had to with the injuries, and you're not training when you're hurt like that, so that is not gonna make a difference for him. To me, it feels like he's coming back for a paycheck. He has a foreign reach advantage. Mario likes to strike, but I think Mario's better on the feet, and I think he can mix in the wrestling if he wanted to and tap him out. So the pick is going to be Mario. The bet's going to be Mario, and I'm all over it. This should be an easy night for him. Speaking of easy nights, we have Miranda Maverick at minus 610 going up against Shayna Young at plus 460. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 120. Under 2.5 minus 110. That annoys me because initially the over under on this was different. This fight was booked and then rescheduled. These two fought before, and Miranda Maverick went out there and submitted her in the first round relatively easily. Miranda's only 25 years old and growing. She has a great ground game, pretty good wrestling that she showed off against Sabina Mazo, and her striking's improving. It's still not that good, but is not terrible. All in all, she's just young and getting better and better, but her bread and butter is that ground game. And she's strong enough. You can look at her and tell to where she can get you to the ground and try to just dominate and control you there. On the flip side, we have Shayna Young, the Shanimal. I think it's probably one of the worst nicknames. I think she's one of the worst fighters. She's 31 years old. She's predominantly a striker, but she's not very good at it, in all honesty. She has 60% takedown defense. That's an issue. She has no ground game, so the 60% takedown defense is definitely an issue. She's a little hittable. A few losses by submission. Again, she lost to Miranda Maverick. She lost to Sarah Alpar. That's not a good look. She got grounded against Lisa. I watched that fight. That's not a good look. So all in all, she seems to have a problem with people on the ground, and that's all Miranda wants to do, and she's already done it to her. So I was really excited to see this fight and to bet the under at plus money, but they were on to it. They got hip to it, and now it's just a straight pick 'em with it. So right now we're gonna take Miranda Maverick. We're going to stay away from, if you want to bet her, you can't bet her at -6 times. She's not doing anything for you. So you would end up betting her to win inside the distance, maybe, or decision, or whatever means you're thinking. I would definitely go inside the distance, considering that's how it ended last time, and she's only getting better. So I think Shayna Young's awful, and she had a weight cut issue dropping down, and that's why this got canceled last time. So make sure you watch her on the scale. If she looks worse, definitely bet the under and bet Miranda by finish. So the pick is going to be Miranda. The bet is going to be Miranda inside the distance. Next fight of the night, we have our first dog play of the night, or not the first, but the first one I'm pretty confident in. We have Derek Minner at +170 going up against Shaileann Newton-Becky. I think that's how you pronounce it. His name, he always goes by just Wolverine, so that's what we're going to call him. Wolverine's -200, Minner +170, over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 +100, under 2.5 -130, and that is all because of Derek Minner. Derek Minner is 26-13. He has 26 professional wins. 23 of them are by submission. 18 of them are in the first round. This dude is here for a good time, not a long time. He goes in and he submits you. I mean, Charles Russo was able to survive, but outside of that, TJ Laramie, first round submission. Charlie Dubray, first round submission. Terrence McKinney, first round submission. Yes, Terrence McKinney. T-Rex. Clay Collard, first round submission. Yep, over in PFL. He's submitting decent guys too. It's not like he's just going out there and beating a whole bunch of bums. I mean, this kid that was 6-15 is a little bit of a bum, but he's going out there and he's literally defeating good guys and doing it very, very quickly, and they're all by submission. His ground game is legit. Obviously, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, very, very good wrestler. Striking isn't as bad as people think. His striking is not terrible. He just most definitely prefers to be on the ground. It's not that his striking is very good. He just hits kind of hard. He's a very strong guy. He just has zero cardio, and that's why all of his wins are in the first round. Because if you take a look at all of his losses, he got tapped out in the first. But then you look at getting tapped out in the first, tapped out in the first. God, Luke Sanders was able to survive to the second. And you know what? Our boy gassed out. Jesse Arnett survived to the second. Our boy gassed out. He went to Chico Camus, went to decision. My boy gassed out. It's like Jordan Griffin went to second round. He gassed out. Kevin Kroom, second round, gassed out. So anytime he goes in there, he's looking for the first round sub. And if he doesn't get it, Grant Dawson, second round, gassed out. He goes out in the second, basically. Darren Elkins crowned him out in second round. My boy is the definition of one round or bust, and that's why this is lined the way it is with that over under. All of this is all on Derek Minner because Shaileann, aka the Wolverine, does absolutely nothing. He fancies himself a grappler. He moved over to Kill Cliff FC. But all in all, he's extremely hittable. He slows down a little bit, not as bad as Derek Minner, but he will slow down. He's very, very low volume. He has 40% takedown defense. That's a little frightening. He literally takes you down and holds on for dear life. He throws nothing on the ground. He throws nothing on the feet. He hits decently hard. Don't get me wrong. If he clips you, you could go out. This dude is jacked. He's a little muscle hamster. He is huge for the division. But dude, he doesn't throw. You have to throw in order to get them out. And if he takes him down, I mean, that's where Minner wants to be. Minner wants to be on the ground. So is he going to survive round one? I don't know if he is, because he has 10 professional losses. He has a decision loss, and then Zhurong knocked him out. Zhurong's not that good. Then he got tapped out. He got knocked out. He got tapped out. He went to a decision. He got tapped out. He got tapped out. He got tapped out. He got tapped out. This dude's been tapped out 8 times. 7 times out of his 10 losses. That's not good. That means he has a little questionable ground game, and that's all Minner wants to do. So if they want to stand on the feet, plot twist, they're not going to. Derek Minner's going to try to take you down. If he decides to take Derek Minner down, that's where Minner wants to be. So Minner has 5 minutes to get him out of there, and it should be relatively easy. If he does not, you live bet Wolverine, because Minner cannot win outside the second round or outside the first round. So the pick is going to be Minner. The bet's going to be Minner at plus 170. Give me the crazy first round sub. All right. The next fight of the night, we have Mark Madsen at plus 185 going up against Grant Dawson minus 215. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 210. Under 2.5 plus 170. Let's start with Grant Dawson, because I'm confused. He's a big favorite. I think he's probably the better fighter. Oh, and all he has more tools, I should say, but he's taking this fight on short notice. I think this is a pretty close fight, so I don't like the line at all. He has really good jiu-jitsu. He has good wrestling. His striking's improving, man. He's throwing some stuff I didn't know he was able to. He moved over from Glory MMA over to ATT, so that's nice to get a different look. He does have 40% takedown defense, but he's one of these guys that want to get taken down by some other people because he wants to be on the ground. And we have seen him look good with cardio. We've seen him look bad with cardio. We never know what type of Grant is going to show up, and that's why the short notice factor does concern me just a bit. But all in all, on the ground, he's a position over submission guy. He's going to just make sure he holds you there and that you go nowhere once you touch the ground. And he's very, very good at it. Or you can actually just catch the sub. He's 18-1-1, a great record. But on the flip side, we have Mark Madsen's undefeated. This dude his nickname is the Olympian because he is an Olympic wrestler. He has great wrestling. His striking is improving. It looked better against Clay Guida, but he is a little hittable. He does usually slow down, but he went over to Fight Ready and he looked perfectly fine his last fight against Vince Michelle. He's 38 years old, so that's a little concerning, and you can back him up a little. He's still not fully comfortable on the feet. His wins, Austin Hubbard, Clay Guida, Vince Michelle's probably his best win, so his record's not the greatest. So I don't know, man. I think it's a close fight. I think it comes down to wrestling. If this stays on the feet, I think Grant Dawson wins. If Mark Madsen takes Grant down, I think he'll be able to just stay on top. If Grant takes Mark down, that's an issue because Mark is probably not going to get back up. So it all comes down to, can Mark out wrestle Grant? And it's an Olympian, so he might be able to. So honestly, I think Grant is the better fighter. I just don't like the short notice nature and him taking it and being the minus 215 favorite. So the pick is going to be Grant because he is the better fighter. But the bet is the guy with the full training camp that's an Olympic wrestler, that where most of it is contingent on wrestling. Give me Mark Madsen at plus 185. That's the only way to bet it. Next fight of the night, we have Tagir Liambukov as a minus 195 favorite going up against Nate Maness at plus 165. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 195. Under 2.5 plus 160. This confuses the hell out of me because how the hell is Nate Maness fighting at flyweight? Watch this man on the scales because he used to fight at 155. He has quite a few fights at 145. He then was seen in the UFC at 135, and now he's dropping to 125. He's literally fought in 4 different weight classes. He's pulling a BJ Penn, and it's a little concerning. He has pretty good power. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage in this matchup. His cardio's good. He keeps getting his ass kicked and then coming back and winning the fight. That's all he does. He's a little hittable. He has some pretty good losses. His losses are to Umar, to Taylor Lopoulos. Like, both those guys are very, very good. But again, he prides himself, his wins. Luke Sanders was beating the shit out of him. He comes back and he wins. Johnny Munoz beat the shit out of him and he got a controversial decision. Tony Gravely literally knocked him out, was stumbling back to his corner, not knowing where he was. came back out and got to finish at the start of the second because Tony gassed himself out trying to finish him. Like, this dude, literally all of his wins could come back as losses. Every single one of them he probably should have lost. So it's a little concerning. And then obviously Umar, he got Umar. Umar wasn't playing around. Not a bad loss. But now he's fighting Umar's training partner and cousin per Khabib, Tagir. And Tagir he has good striking. He has good wrestling. His jiu-jitsu is perfectly fine. He rolled around with Alan Nascimento for a while. And his cardio checks out. 61% takedown defense. I wish it was a little better. But Nate Maness isn't going to be able to take him down. He gets hit a little bit. He is a little hittable, but he dishes it out. He's fine on the feet. It's just he has zero power. There's no fear. He's not really gonna. He's very good on the ground, but he's not generally gonna submit you. He's very good on the feet. He's probably not gonna knock you out. Like, it's odd. I don't know, man. He's very, very good, but when it comes to Team Khabib, there are two that seem to be a little worse than the rest. Usman, unstoppable. Umar, unstoppable. Abubakar, you can whoop his ass. And Tagir, you might be able to whoop his ass. So I think he's good enough here. I think Tagir gets the job done. The pick is going to be Tagir. The bet is going to be Tagir. But God, if Nate Maness gets his ass whooped and comes back again, I'm going to go crazy. Speaking of getting your ass whooped and coming back, we have Chase Sherman minus 125. That sounds gross. Going up against Josh Parisian plus 105. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 plus 130. Under 2.5 minus 160. Chase Sherman was getting rocked by Jared Vanderaa, then came back and knocked him out in the third round in his last fight. And that was probably a battle of the worst heavyweights. Chase Sherman is the guy that literally got brought into the UFC, got cut. They brought him back to fight Alexander Romanov because no one else could on short notice, and promised him another fight if he were to go on and take that fight. So he went in, got choked out by Romanov real quick just to get one more shot, and he cashed in and beat Jared Vanderaa. So here he is. He's still here, even though he was on a 4-fight losing streak. They gave him a 5th fight and he won it, so they had to give him another one. His wins in the UFC, again, Jared Vanderaa, now cut. Ike Villanueva, cut. That's it. That is it. He's a former bare knuckle boxer. Dude, Chase Sherman is ass. He was even in the UFC before. I'm sorry. That was his second stint where he got caught. He is effectively on his third stint. His first stint, he came in, lost to Shamil, Justin Willis, Augustus Sakai, went to bare knuckle boxing, did some regional stuff, came back, lost to Arlovsky, Parker Porter, Jake Collier, then got cut, brought back to fight Romanov, lost, fought Jared Vanderaa, won, and he's back. All he has is power. He has zero cardio, zero wrestling, zero jiu-jitsu. Jake Collier made it look easy. He has just a puncher's stance and wants you to stand and bang with him. Lucky for him, Josh Parisian is someone that likes to stand and bang, and he also sucks. This is the new battle of worst effective heavyweight in the UFC. Which one's the worst? Whoever loses gets cut because they're that bad. Josh's striking is all right, but he also gasses. He just has that, like, I call it hurt cardio, where they have nothing left. They're absolutely cooked, but they just keep swinging and you don't know where they find the energy to swing. I've seen him try to mix in wrestling. He's just not very good at it. He's extremely hittable, so that concerns me fighting someone like Chase. His volume's all right. It's a little better. Chase's volume isn't that bad either, honestly. So honestly, they both want to strike. They both gas out. They both have nothing to offer off their back. Either one can wrestle. It's going to be gross. Who do I want to pick? Heavyweight, flip a coin. So I'll take Josh just because he's the dog. So the pick will be Josh. That will be Josh. It is a 50-50 fight. It's going to be the worst fight on the card on a talent standpoint. So just take the dog at that point, wherever the plus sign is. Then the next fight, we have our co-main event. We have D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez, minus 105. Neil Magny, minus 115. So damn near pick 'em. Over under, you guessed it, 2.5. Over 2.5, minus 210. Under 2.5, plus 170, like all the others. This is a weird fight, man. First and foremost, this fight was booked before it got pushed back and rebooked. And I believe it was because of D-Rod. So I don't know what the issues was he was having, but hopefully he's fine now. He's pretty good striking, underrated jiu-jitsu. He's very good on the ground, very high volume. Wrestling, 73% takedown defense, not terrible. Cardio, it's fine, checks out. I thought he lost his last fight against the Leech, but it is what it is. He's looked good against Kevin Lee. Preston Parsons looked good. Mike Perry looked good. Nicholas Dalby looked terrible, but I thought he won the fight and got screwed. Dwight Grant looked terrible, but he came back and got the knockout. Gabe Green looked good. Tim Means looked good. He's a good fighter, man. He's very good. Even his other losses a split decision, so he should be undefeated. In all honesty, yeah, he's just someone that predominantly wants to stand and bang, and he'll slap on a guillotine because he's pretty good at it. Otherwise, pretty defensively sound when it comes to the grappling. On the flip side, Neil Magny, definition. He is the absolute definition of a gatekeeper. Good striking, good wrestling, great cardio. Ground game, it's all right. 6-inch reach advantage, that's huge here. He's definitely fought the better guys without question. D-Rod's very good, but he's hardly fought anyone that's concerned. He might be aging a little. He's 35. He's starting to slow down a touch. He didn't look the greatest in Max Griffin fight, so I don't really know what to think of him right now. Very durable, and we did see him get finished by Shavkat Rakhmonov. Now, is that because Shavkat is that good, or is that because Neil Magny is slowing down? I don't know. I don't really want to play with that. I don't know, man. This is a close fight. It's lined as a pick'em. I don't really want to touch it. If gun to my head, I'll take Neil Magny just because of the 6-inch reach advantage. In all honesty, I think it's predominantly a stand-up war, and he might just be able to tap him a little bit. But neither guy really has a ton of knockout power. So although I think it's a very hard one to choose the winner, I think the over hits 9 times out of 10. So you're giving me minus 160, or sorry, minus 210 on the over. It's not the greatest, but I'll take it. That's the only way to bet it, because I think that's 50-50. So the pick is going to be Neil Magny, but the bet is going to be the over 2.5. I think that thing stretches the whole way, unless Neil is cooked. That's the only way it doesn't. All right, and then that takes us to the main event. And again, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like, hit subscribe, give a follow over on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere you can. We have Marina Rodriguez is a minus 210 favorite going up against Amanda Lemos at plus 180. Over under set at 4.5. Over 4.5 minus 110. Under 4.5 minus 120. Let's start with Lemos. I think Lemos is pretty good, man. She has good volume, a ton of power. This girl can crack. She does get hit quite a bit, so don't get me wrong, it's a little sketchy. Her jiu-jitsu is solid, top notch. We saw her last fight against Karate Hottie. It's not normal to see her busted out. She's been having too much fun knocking people out as of late, but yeah, Lemos is pretty solid all around. The only problem with Amanda Lemos is the fact that she slows down in fights, and I've never seen her go 5 rounds. She's only booked for a 5-round fight once, and she got tapped out with a standing arm triangle relatively quickly against Jessica Andrade. She's a tank. Yeah, she's just slowing down, and I don't think her cardio is going to get any better considering she's 35. This is the end of the road for her. She is going to start to slow, especially cutting down. I mean, she made her debut at 135. She's been fighting at 115 as of late. So I don't see her cardio getting any better. So 5 rounds does concern me a touch here if she's not able to put out Marina Rodriguez. And Marina Rodriguez has never been put out. She only has 1 career loss, and it was a split decision to the current champion, Carla Esparza. She does have a no contest against Cynthia Calvillo, which was interesting. All in all, and then she has the one against Ronda Marquez that didn't age well. Marina has really, really, really good striking. She is the better striker here, in all honesty. She cracks some power. She doesn't have as much power as Amanda, but she has enough. High volume. She's very hard to hit. Like, she is very lanky. She usually has a bigger reach than her opponent, so it'll be interesting with her fighting someone with the same amount of reach. But all in all, I guess she'll be fine. She has a little bit of a slow starter, so it's the opposite. Amanda starts hot and she puts you out early, or she fades and struggles. Marina's the opposite. She struggles for the first round or 2 and then picks it up and figures you out kind of Peter Yan style and dominates you the latter parts of the round. So it'll be pretty interesting here. As long as she can survive that first 2, I expect her to dominate round 3, 4, and 5. And she has the 5-round experience. She went 5 rounds against sorry, against Mackenzie Dern just recently, 2 fights ago. So she's done 5 before. She looked perfectly fine doing it. Again, Amanda hasn't. Marina's never been knocked out, so she can't put her away. She starts to fade. I think Marina takes over. This is one I will be looking at to live bet. Excuse me. I do think Amanda could put her out early. And I think you're going to get a better line after round 1 and 2 of Amanda. Then you can just jump on Marina at plus money, maybe even, and capitalize there. So the pick is going to be Marina. The bet is going to be Marina. And I think the best way to bet Rodriguez is the live bet it. And that's UFC Vegas 64. Rodriguez versus Lemos. Again, it's a pretty weird card. It's not the greatest in the world, but it's a free card. We can't complain. All we can do is get money, baby. Let's get it.